What is up, DramaAlert Nation? I'm your host, Killer Keemstar. Let's get right into the news. Now, here on DramaAlert, we've been talking about the chaos that Jake Paul is causing for his neighbors. And we've heard a lot from Jake Paul, claiming that his neighbors are trying to kill him and his neighbors are the ones that are actually the nuisance. But we haven't heard that much from the neighbors, so I did want to get in contact with one of Jake Paul's neighbors and ask him some questions. We do have a neighbor on the line here. Now, he wishes to remain anonymous. I think we'll just jump into that. Why stay anonymous?
Well, at this point, there's been a lot of harassment towards all neighbors, not just the one that went on KTLA. So when we're walking our dogs or taking our kids for a walk, the level of harassment's just increased dramatically over the last week. And
these are from Jake's fans?
From Jake's fans, correct.
And what could you describe some of the harassment? Are they calling you guys names as you're walking around, or how exactly are they harassing you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything from name calling to you name it. What a 6 to 14-year-old kid will do or say, and it's been done in this past week.
What is it like living every day next to Jake Paul? I mean, what's the experience for you neighbors on the street?
Think of the worst case scenario of the worst neighbor you could possibly imagine and times it by 10. There's really no way to explain it. I mean, the way that we had to phrase it to the city officials who we have the meeting with next week is we encourage them to come look for themselves before the meeting, and they were blown away themselves just at I don't want to say the level of stupidity, but just how out of control all of this is. And it's, at this point, it seems to be a machine that he keeps feeding. This could easily end at any time, but I guess he's going to ride this out, and we'll see where it goes.
Can you explain some of the stuff that Jake has actually done to affect the neighbors?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost at this point, our main concern are safety issues for our families, and also, for the kids who are parked out in front of his house. If you saw the KTLA news feed, you saw kids literally everywhere, in the streets, in our yards, on the sidewalk, in the driveways.
And this happens almost every day, right?
It is every day, yeah. And Kilkia is a parallel street to Crescent Heights, and it connects with Melrose. So it's a thoroughfare for people to cut through traffic. It's a heavily trafficked street anyway. And so our main concern at this point is just the safety issue that having all of these people literally loitering for, when I mean hours, I mean 5 to 6 hours. Some people are there. Some people have been there all freaking day. No kidding.
Right.
So at this point, it's a matter of safety. You have parents who are dropping their kids off, parking the car in the middle of the street, dropping their kids off. And these kids are so fixated that their situational awareness is zero. And literally they're running right in front of cars coming down the street. It's happened to me several times. It's happened to the neighbors several times. And at this point, it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it happens. And we, our concern is obviously for the safety of our families, but also, we don't want anything to happen to these kids. As much as they're a pain in the ass, we don't want anything to happen to them.
Jake Paul has been saying that the neighbors are actually the problem. What is the neighborhood actually like? Who lives on that street?
Yeah, I heard he said that too. The street is made up literally of, there's some publicists, this is LA, so it's a big entertainment community, but
right.
Publicists, writers, stay-at-home moms, producers, there's a scientists, doctors, lawyers, realtors, there's some retirees, some stay-at-home moms, there's even a pastor that lives on our street.
When they were so it's just a normal, neighborhood, and then you got this giant entertainment star there. When they interviewed him, Channel 5, when they were there interviewing him, it seemed like he wanted to rub it in the neighbor's face. I mean, he grabbed a dirt bike. It looked like he was riding in, the neighbor's yard and stuff. What were your thoughts when this happened?
I wasn't there for the shoot, but I actually did see the newscast. Well, it just goes to show you how disingenuous any apology or any accountability that this kid has, which is none. I mean, even I heard yesterday that he went around apologizing to neighbors, but it was all a ploy, and that he had a hidden microphone and taped private conversations on private property, which is a huge no-no. And there's been, I don't know if all the neighbors who he reached out to filed complaints with the LAPD, but I know several have.
I mean, it just seems like he's not really respecting, anyone at all there. The main thing that the report talked about was this fire in the pool. How bad was that?
It was bad. I mean, you have to understand, if you look on the news anytime during the summer, you're going to see parts of LA burning, parts of California burning, and it's a serious issue here. I mean, it's the amount of property value that's been destroyed just in the last couple of years in Hollywood alone. You can probably remember the big fires that nearly took out the Hollywood sign.
Right.
So just the word fire and LA don't mix. Two words that you never want to hear together. And for these guys to do what they did just for the camera, and basically, they took a bunch of their own lawn furniture, but also pulled up AstroTurf. You have to understand, they rent the house. They don't own the house.
Right.
So they burned property that was their own, but also was not theirs, and poured gasoline or some accelerant on it and lit it. And if you saw the news clip, there were flames and higher than the house, easily higher than the house. As you can imagine, LA homes, despite the fact if they're 3 million or whatever, our neighborhood, the homes are right on top of one another.
Right.
So this fire was 6 feet from the next door neighbor, who's an 80-year-old woman from Poland. She's lived here a very long time. Her parents fled Germany or something like that during the war, and they came here, and her entire house was filled with black toxic smoke.
Unreal. Did he try to fix that issue with
No, nothing. And we're trying to get an actual fire report. We put in a request for it to see what the fire report actually says, because the official report's finally out. But no, it was kind of that scenario where the neighborhood banded together, because at that point, the speeding down the street is unacceptable. The riding the motorcycles through the yards, the parties, and like all the juvenile stupid shit that he does.
Right.
At that point, when that fire happened, that was kind of the final straw. And still to this day, he takes zero accountability for it, to the impact that it could have had, or even the fact that...
Well, he's been lying. He's been telling people it was special effects, which, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. So, I think the main thing is he's just... any interaction that we've had with him has been kind of a false narrative that where he doesn't want to accept any accountability for anything that he does, and doesn't think that he has to answer to anybody. And the meeting that we're having next week with city officials, hopefully we'll get some resolve out of that, and he'll realize that he's an adult now. And, it's great to be a rebel, but it's also equally as important to be responsible and just, kind of respect the people that you share this earth with.
Right. With some of these stunts that he's filming on the street, like, don't you need like certain permits, and especially with the fire? Wouldn't you need like a permit to do something like that?
Yeah, so in LA, it's called the rule of thirds, and actually, I think most rule of three, most incorporated cities have it, where if you have a crew of more than 3 people, you have to have a permit, whether it's public or private property. But definitely where there's any type of involvement of stunts, um, anything that actually even impacts parking, traffic, um, use of a public way of any kind, it requires a permit. One thing I can share with you is Film LA, which does all the permits here in LA, did say that to date, no one under Jake Paul Productions Inc., Team 10, Team Don, any of his affiliated companies, or the address where the companies are based have ever filed a single request for a permit.
So I mean, he could be looking at a lot of legal trouble. He recently made a claim on his YouTube channel that his neighbors tried to kill him, loosen the lug nuts on his van, which caused the van to get in some type of accident. Do you think that any of your neighbors actually tried to kill Jake Paul?
No, and it's the statement is completely absurd, and at this point, it's slanderous. There's a few things that you're allowed to say when you're defaming somebody, and saying that a person or even a small group of people that can be narrowed down to his neighbors would commit an act of murder or attempted murder or whatever. It's 100% slanderous, and I can tell you that that's something that we may be going after as well.
Woo! You know, most of my fans that watch my videos dislike Jake Paul, but there will be some Jake Paul fans watching this right now. What would you say to them about their hero?
Well, let me say this: no one in our neighborhood hates Jake Paul. We don't like what he's done to the neighborhood. We don't like his arrogance and putting public in danger. But I can tell you, every adult on the street, we've never once uttered those words. The only person who's even uttered those words is Jake himself. So, just know that there's no hatred towards this individual.
Just hatred for his actions.
Well, I don't even know if it's hatred as much as it's like, there's a big difference between being pissed and being disappointed. And I think if I knew him better, I could say, I'm really disappointed, and that would probably hurt more. But yeah, we're all pretty pissed at this point that we've reached out to him to just say, look, tone it down. There's families across the street. There's kids across the street. Literally directly across the street, there's a family with 2 kids. Next door to them is a family with a newborn and a 2-year-old. Next to them is a family with 3 kids. Literally within, 30 feet of his house. So, kids are going to be kids, this millennial generation. God help us all. But I think it's really the parents that need to be examined here. The problem that we have with the traffic and all the kids being here, you would be surprised. The parents are camping out with the kids. When I mean camping out, I shit you not when I say they bring lawn chairs, sit in our front yards, in between the curb and the sidewalk, and literally camp out for hours to see this guy. So I don't think the parents have a clue as to the content that this guy churns out.
Right.
Let alone is half of the stuff suitable for a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old? Hell no.
Yeah, I wouldn't label Jake Paul as a role model for sure.
No. And in the same breath, as a business guy, I have to tilt my hat to him and say, great, you're building an empire. You're making a lot of money. That's great. Like, I don't want to say I'm proud of him, but to do what he's done deserves a little respect. But at the same time, there's a level of humility that I think that his 20-year-old brain can't grasp.
Well, that's
Um,
for sure.
and hopefully, with this meeting next week, uh, you know, I have the feeling that, well, I know that the city can't ignore it anymore. I mean, this story has gone global at this point.
Right.
Um, and the city is going to rain down on him. That's all I can say. I mean, the city's job is to protect us, and so the reason we're having this meeting with all of these agencies, the fact that they're attending this meeting, I can tell you, says one thing about how seriously they're taking this. And there's always Plan B, which is we have civil recourse as well to get things actioned if the city doesn't move as quickly as we need them to.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here from Jake Paul's neighbor. The city of LA is about to rain on Jake Paul. Thank you for coming on. Guys, if you enjoyed this interview, make sure you slap a like on it. DramaAlert Nation now over 2,075,000 subscribers. Awesome. That went well. That went real well.
Cool. Well, let me know if you need